This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
As we continue to look at the Trump administration's federal immigration raids, we turn to a new investigation, radio investigation by Latino USA, Futuro Media, and Cal Matters. It's called Taken, the agents raiding communities and the people trying to stop them. This is a trailer for the special report.
The neighborhood patrols in LA begin before sunrise. Teachers and school psychologists warning their neighbors about armed men in unmarked cars waiting to take people.
We're looking for vehicles with paper plates.
ICE. In Chicago, a father killed during one of the first raids. In Mexico,
no estamos de acuerdo con esta forma de trato.
Even the president calls it psychological terror. And at the center of it all, Border Patrol's Gregory Bovino. But most of the people being detained have no criminal records. Some are even picked up during appointments. Taken, the raids, the man behind them, and the people trying to stop them.
We're joined now by Maria Hinojosa, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, founder of Futuro Media. She's the host of Latino USA. Futuro's new investigation is titled Taken, the agents raiding communities and the people trying to stop them, produced in special collaboration with Cal Matters, independent media group in California. Maria, welcome back to Democracy Now! On the one hand, you have these brutal attacks on people from Chicago to Los Angeles. On the other hand, you have people fighting back. Can you talk about the journeys you took with these community groups that are taking observation of what these agents are doing into their own hands?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be back with you, and thank you for having me. You know, we first started in LA, and we were on the ground with Barrios Unidos, which does basically tracking on the streets of, when we were there, South Central. You have teachers, LA teachers, who before they go work on their job as a teacher are in cars going through neighborhoods and peering into cars to make sure that they are not ICE vehicles, and then alerting the community if there is someone there that is ICE, if there isn't. In the time that we were there, they didn't spot anyone, but there were many close calls. You know, they are very expert in seeing the tinted windows, strange cars that are appearing. But I have to say, again, and the mayor just said it, it feels surreal. It felt so surreal to be on the streets of LA, having to patrol your own communities to defend them from the government and the federal agents. But this is, as the community member said, it would be worse if we weren't doing this. By doing this, at least we feel like we have some power to respond. And in Chicago, I mean, I'm a Chicago girl, you know? But when we first got there, the assaults were happening in the suburbs of Chicago, in West Chicago, and communities were pouring out onto the streets. I mean, one moment that stands out for me is actually a family of white people from West Chicago, a mom, her kids, the father, and they were all wearing shirts that said Jesus was an undocumented immigrant, and they were carrying a huge Mexican flag. And I was like, what's happening? But this is what it looks like. And I have to say, this is extraordinarily, I mean, I can't even find the word, because it is a response. It's not that it's heartwarming. It is a natural response that citizens are having to feeling assaulted in their own communities. And in that sense, witnessing that was powerful and empowering.
Well, let's go to a clip from Taken. This is of a 31-year-old Mexican man named Mauricio, who was chased and detained by immigration agents while waiting for the bus in Los Angeles on June 8th after work.
Mauricio was first taken to a detention camp an hour south of Los Angeles. Then, at 5 a.m. that next morning, he was put on a plane. He was shackled. He had absolutely no idea where he was going.
¿Y te dicen a dónde vas?
No dice nada. No nos
dio. Un avión y no tienes ni idea.
Ni idea dónde vamos, ni nada.
They were taken to an ICE tent camp. Mauricio's knee was causing him a lot of pain, making it almost impossible for him to walk.
3 days passed since Mauricio had been levantado,
taken,
kidnapped, a word that in Mexico has a heavy significance. This is the term used for cartel-related kidnappings or state-sanctioned disappearances, and Mauricio knows this. It's precisely why he's using that term.
Me expresaría como que hubiera sido un arresto cuando traen uniforme. Y en realidad ellos no traen uniforme. Estaban de civiles.
I was picked up by people in plain clothes, he tells us. No uniforms, no badges, no arrest order.
And in this other clip from Taken, Maria Hinojosa, you interview Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum.
Can you please respond to this question of psychological terror that is being unleashed on Latinos and Latinas?
No estamos de acuerdo con esta forma.
We do not agree with this treatment, nor with the raids that have been carried out.
Se han estado llevando a cabo, que además en efecto pues
These raids, in fact, cause fear and anxiety among Mexicans living there.
los mexicanos que viven allá.
So, Maria Hinojosa, obviously you narrated both the clips that we played. So if you could respond, elaborate on these two.
Right, and also I want to give a big shout out to my team, Futuro Investigates, Fernanda Echavarri, our managing editor, Sergio Olmos from Cal Matters. I mean, the situation with Claudia Sheinbaum when we were able to get into the morning press conference, one of the things that I ended up asking her, which frankly all of the journalists in the room were surprised, because I said to her, I'm a Mexican woman, you're a Mexican woman, this is affecting my heart. How are you feeling this emotionally? All the journalists were like, we don't ask Claudia Sheinbaum about her emotions. But she was like, this is deeply upsetting. And it was important to see her reaction, to say, I've talked to Marco Rubio, and yet it falls on deaf ears. For me, the fact that Mauricio uses this word, levantados, which means taken, it is the term that is used in Mexico for actual kidnappings. He was, in fact, kidnapped. I mean, what we break in this documentary is the fact that when they are taken, they are then denied basic due process. But in Mauricio's case, we were able to document for 5 days, not one single phone call. And the only way that he was able to get a phone call was he was coerced into signing his own removal. And that's when he was able to make the phone call. And in fact, they also asked them to give the name and number and address of the person that they're going to call, and another way to go and find that person and take that person who they're calling. This is big news. The fact that we are actually witnessing the denial of due process and coercion and having to sign your own removal just to get a phone call.
And what about the responses from the governor, Governor Newsom or Mayor Karen Bass?
Well, Mayor Karen Bass said this is the hunting of Latinos and Latinas. And this, we know, we are watching it. The situation with Newsom and Karen Bass is that they also admit pretty clearly that there is a limit to what they can do against this federal assault. Nonetheless, they are both committed to standing up and saying and doing as much as they can. But actually, what can they do legally there is a limit to what they can do.
I mean, it's amazing, all the big sports news this past week. Not that I focus on this myself, but, the Dodger win.
Yes.
You have federal agents seen staging at the Dodger Stadium parking lot Tuesday morning, a day after the team celebrated their back-to-back championships with thousands of fans in downtown L.A. I mean, this is amazing. And then you have groups that are calling for the boycott of Home Depot because they're using their parking lots.
Right. What I came away from this journey of being in Chicago, being in LA, then being in Mexico, it's what I asked the president. This is psychological terror. There is no way that you can explain it except for that. It's not that you actually have tens of thousands of troops and agents. No, you have enough to create a sense of instability and fear and terror. And what we do know is that people, little girls, little boys, are afraid to leave their homes. They are experiencing this emotional horror. How do you explain psychological terror that is being unleashed by the federal government against its people, especially those of us in New York after 9/11, when we actually felt that there was some element of terror? The terror now is coming from our own government.
And your response to President Trump on 60 Minutes, in response to Norah O'Donnell saying we haven't gone far enough when she talked about the violence of the attacks. We just watched in Chicago a preschool Spanish immersion teacher being dragged out as parents and the kids, the preschoolers, watched in horror. as agents took her out of the school.
Right, and in Chicago, it all began with the murder of Silverio Villegas, a 38-year-old father. When Trump says this, I mean, he's showing his true colors. I don't like to use these terms. They are very difficult terms. I mean, clearly Trump is saying we should have ethnic cleansing against Latinos and Latinas. If it hasn't gotten far enough, when you're, pulling, screaming people, separating, breaking windows, and he's saying we haven't gone far enough, he, in his mind, believes that all of us, me included, I wasn't born in this country, are therefore a problem for this country. It's horrible. What I can't sit with is the number of people who are frankly just sitting by and watching this, letting this happen, and believing that they are taking the worst of the worst. It's exactly what the mayor of Evanston said. They are not taking the worst of the worst. In fact, we know the data shows that immigrants, undocumented immigrants, commit fewer crimes than American citizens. And in fact, just to let you know, I was in the emergency room on Tuesday night, had a little asthma attack. All of this talk about New York being overrun by immigrant criminals, who was the only person who I saw that had a police sitting outside his bed? A young white teenager. So it doesn't jive with what's really happening, and Donald Trump is showing his true colors. He wants us all to leave, pero yo no me voy. I'm not going.
And finally, before we end, if you could talk about the role of Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino.
Well, so I like to say that before all of this happened, Gregory Bovino was a big nobody. Nobody knew his name. Gregory Bovino was in charge of the Border Patrol in the southern sector of California, and he has taken this moment to become the man on the scene. And he likes to dress up, actually like a Nazi SS agent. He's using the long, dark coat, making that salute. And he is unleashing this terror and having a great time. And in fact, then using our tax dollars to produce these social media videos that make it seem like there is a war going on in Chicago, in LA, Portland next, New York. It's not true, but they are portraying this to scare other Americans from the fact that, yeah, immigrants are not a threat, but they have to produce these highly produced videos in order to do that.
And before we go on another issue, you did get to question the Mexican President Sheinbaum. Now she is in the news because as she was talking to people on the streets of Mexico City, a man came up behind her, groped her, trying to kiss her neck, and she ultimately brought charges saying this is an attack on all women of Mexico.
You know, I get triggered every time I see that video. I was raped when I was 16 in Mexico, and so actually seeing the president saying I'm going to press charges, I'm just like, you know what, it makes me feel like I should go back and press charges against the man who did this to me in Mexico when I was just 16. I think the fact that she's saying, if this can happen to me as a female president, it can happen to any woman. And so the fact that she's actually pressing charges, I think is extraordinary. I think there are many women in Mexico who will take the step of going and pressing charges. Unlike me, I won't be able to do that. But it is a horror, and it is the sense that this man could do this while being filmed, touching a woman, trying to get to the president's chest is horrible.
I want to thank you so much for being with us. Maria Hinojosa, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, founder of Futuro Media, host of Latino USA. We will link to Futuro's new radio investigation, Taken, the agents raiding communities and the people trying to stop them, produced in special collaboration with Cal Matters. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.